Hello folks, how are we today? Today's lesson is on how to evaluate a chess position. Got a random position here, no eval bars today, and to start off with, I just want you to use your intuition. I'm not going to keep the position up for long. After gf6 by black, who here is winning? Is anybody winning? Is there a slight advantage either side? You don't have to give an exact number, but maybe leave a comment. What do you think is going on in this position? White's bishop is hit, just to give you a bit of a clue. Material is equal. Just let me know. We're going to come back to it at the end of the video, and I'll explain a few things, but just for now, use your intuition. So, here we have this following position. We have an endgame. And the first method of evaluating a chess position is simple, just count the pieces. So we've got the white, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns. For black, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Toddler stuff, nice and simple. And piecewise, got a rook each, and we've got a bishop each, both light squared bishops. Now you'll see there's a little bit of a mistake here with bishop b7. Material is even. Does that mean the position is completely equal? Not necessarily, because although all these pieces nominally are the same, they aren't all constructed equally in the position itself. So for example here, let's say after rook d6, king d6, this position is suddenly very different because white has these two connected pawns here. One of the pawns is a passed pawn. Already that makes it stronger than any of these, which are just completely stuck. They're all built on a light squared complex, which doesn't complement the bishops on the board. If black ever wants to try and attack these pawns, the only way he's going to chop them down is with his king, because they're all on dark squares. Against dark squares, a light squared bishop is utterly useless. So again, just to clarify, although both participants have a light squared bishop each, they're not made equally. Their strength is exacerbated by the pawns to which they play with. That isn't a pawn. And just to show you on the evaluation, in case you don't believe me, this position is about plus 1.4. Now you may review a game, let's say you've got the white pieces, you might win this, you might draw this, you might even lose it if you're that much of a fool. You may look at this plus 1.4 and think, well, I watch, Tata Steel. They say plus 2 is winning at Super GM level and everything. Yeah, it is. You get a plus 2 evaluation. It's fair to assume that that is winning. If you have two computers play each other in a plus 2 position, chances are the result will be decisive. There will be a win rather than a draw. That isn't always the case for humans. Certainly in an endgame, eval bar evaluations can be a little bit loose sometimes. They're not exactly the most clear-cut thing. Plus 1.4 could either mean it's completely winning, or it can mean the computer can't actually find a way forward, and it's very, very tentative, shall we say. This position, of course, black isn't going to win this. Let's just rule that off straight away. But white, let's say, goes king e1. Maybe we get king c6 or something like that. Well, king c6 is apparently terrible. But you can start to try and poke and prod and try and slowly make your way forward. If you only draw a position like this, don't beat yourself up about it, because realistically the engine doesn't know all that well either. This is an evaluation where it's very grey. It's a very, very grey area. Fortunately for me, I mean, I had the black pieces here. My opponent flagged after I played bishop b7, so I didn't have to deal with any of this. But sometimes you will have to. So we move on to this position, for example. Again, we'll count the pieces. White has 4 pawns. Black only has 3. 2 rooks each, and a dark squared bishop each. Is white here any better? Has black's got some, strange tactic? Try and give them an advantage? We can rule that one off, no. The board is quite open, but the king is very safe. There aren't that many pieces on. But yes, practically speaking, white is ever so slightly better, just purely for the fact that they're up a pawn. Realistically, with correct play, this is just a draw. You can write it off as a draw. Super GMs would probably shake hands now already because there isn't a whole lot to play for. But at a lower level, white is up a pawn. Try and press that advantage, try and crash through, try and make a pass pawn, try and make things difficult. Again, show the evaluation. Plus 0.17. What does that actually mean? It means exactly as I've said, the position is equal with perfect play, but the practical chances are what are important here. You have to look at the fact that white is just simply up a pawn. White can press here and try and squeeze out a win, banking on the fact that black isn't going to play the most accurate moves. If you look further on in the game, I go bishop b2, which is the best move. After bishop g3, I go rook a1, which is incorrect, and already you see the eval bar just creep a little bit. My idea, trying to defend this endgame, was I want pieces off the board. I want them all off. After rook a1, bishop a1, this was actually the wrong decision. The computer wants me to keep 2 rooks on, maybe with hopes of trying to double them up, and deliver some kind of repetition in the corner or something like that. But again, still, it's only 0.6 in favour of white. Bishop f4, already a bit of an inaccurate play. Bishop d4 inaccurate as well. And you just see the more pieces come off the board, now the closer we deviate to a draw. Missed an opportunity here to just take the pawn. That was very stupid of me, admittedly. But get in all the same. Here I go h5, because I just jumped straight in with take. Here, here, and here. Again, this is a draw. On down rook endgames, generally speaking, are draws. But practically, it's no fun to play. So the sensible option, instead, h5. Also sets a little trap that if you try and go rook c5, try and anticipate, trades happening again. There is bishop d3, and then maybe black can try and play for a win, but even then it's dubious. Regardless, my opponent doesn't do that. He goes king f3. Everything gets traded off, and we get an even king and pawn endgame. And just to show you how evaluation can impact king and pawn endgames, oftentimes you'll face yourself in positions where you have what is described as an only move. An only move is something where, well, there's 3 tiers of only moves, I guess you could say. We glance back to over here, for example. Here, there is only 2 possible moves to play. You can either take the rook or play bishop d4 and then take the rook. But for all intents and purposes, taking the rook is the only option. That's obvious. It's no use calling this an only move because obviously if you don't take back the rook, you just lose. That's simple. You obviously also have forcing moves where the only legal move in the position is there is just one. There's only one option, so you have to play it. And here, if we skip back to this king and pawn game we had, here there are only 2 moves, just 2. So really only moves. You either go g4 or, as I did in the game, king f6. hg4, and again, only move is hg4, but that is quite obvious. And we just reach a drawn position. My opponent keeps playing on because this is another little snippet of advice, kind of in addition to what I'm already saying. Don't try and flag people in drawn endgames, just play them as if they're a draw. Or don't try and squeeze wins out in draws, because you'll probably lose more than you win. I've done it too many times myself. It's not worth it. Not to say that that's what happened here, but it's clearly a draw, so it's just pointless. We get into a drawn king of pawn endgame, and I already have a video on this. My opponent is 1900, so they know how to do it. Simple. Now we get to this last one. This is an excerpt from a chess.com lesson. So it's not a game I've actually played, it's just one against the computer. But what is the evaluation of this position? Again, just to tot it all up for you, position, material is all completely equal. Another thing you can look at when evaluating positions is pawn structure. So are there any isolated pawns, any weaknesses that can be capitalized on? White has quite a nice bind here, but d5 could maybe be an option to try and break it all up. Activity is important when evaluating structures. So this bishop is a little bit dead. But what scope do these rooks actually have thus far? This rook is pretty good. This one needs a moment to try and get across. Which queen is better than the other? Well, I would say they're about the same at the minute, because they aren't really targeting anything. And king safety as well is also incredibly important. How safe are these kings? But with a dark squared bishop, white's king could become quite vulnerable. Let's say you bring it around. You'll always have scope on there. Black's king is, we want to say, very, very safe. f6 to try and tear it apart isn't going to happen anytime soon. So who is winning here? Who is better? Who's got an advantage? Well, after bishop f6, it takes back knight d5. Who's going to move that knight? It's on a light square. Pawn glues it in. Who is moving that knight? The dark square bishop can't. The only way you're going to budge it now, we can go c4 and maybe b3, try and lock it in, get a little connect ball with a knight at the top. No one can budge that piece. That is an outpost square. There's a square where a piece resides that no one else can touch it. If you want to move it, you've got to sacrifice a rook, and then you will just be down in exchange and you'll be in misery for the rest of the game. This is another thing to factor into evaluation, and it all stems from pawn structures. It's how many outpost squares are there in the position, how strong are they? How long will it take for the other person to try and budge the piece away? We just turn the eval bar back on here. This is a +2 position, because this knight is worth 4 or 5 points in nominal values. This bishop is worth sweet dick all. It is just terrible. Even if you bring it out here, it's just going to become a target. There's not a whole lot you can do. So, that brings us back to this position. My own game against Muesli Boy. I don't know about the name, but sure. Who's winning here? Well, shout out all of you out there if you've said white is winning and know why. Because if you found knight e5, that is an only move. No forced moves, no BS. Knight e5 is the only move for a winning advantage in this position. And this is a little bit of a humble brag just to showcase what I believe is the best move I've ever played. Can't take the knight because there's a pin here. You can't take the bishop because of queen h5. And that is mate. So, in a seemingly innocuous position where your bishop is being hit, you feel as though you may have to move it away somewhere. Sometimes a tactic can change the entire game and change the entire evaluation of a position. It matters not that everything here is equal. Bishops, knights, all minor pieces, queens and rooks, pawns are equal. None of it matters. Knight e5. Last move I think was rook g8, just out of curiosity. Queen h5, rook g6, and then just cash in. Even here you can't take back because of this, and then because then the queens come off by force. So you would go queen f7 first. Then what would you do? Bishop f6. Yeah, because if you take here, then you'll have knight e5. Then you have to come back and lose everything. Very deep tactics. I hadn't calculated all of that at the time, but it looked good. I went for it. And there you go. That is a very basic introduction on how to evaluate a position. And obviously I can do more in-depth stuff should people want it. So let me know. And thank you for watching.